So I decided to revisit one of the builds that I was running when Solar 3.0 came out, and it is still incredibly powerful and has actually gotten stronger with the new build crafting system. Depending on the activity you're running, you guys can be making easily over 100 orbs, no problem. You're gonna have insane survivability, and also your burst damage is actually really good as well, along with your ad clear. I personally love this build, considering this build actually has a pretty decent skill gap to it as well. You guys will be learning things as you play around with it and when to do things and how to do things in the proper orders. But overall, it's incredibly strong and a lot of fun. Yeah, if you guys want to subscribe to the channel for more build videos here in the future, make sure you guys do that. But let's go ahead and jump into this build. So the main thing going on with this build is running the Ophidia Spathe exotic chest piece for our hunter. What this is going to allow us to do is have 2 knife charges, and when we dodge to get our charge back, it's actually going to give us both charges. And with those both charges, you guys can get guaranteed ignitions. And then you combine that with our seasonal artifact and the firebolt mods, you guys can have a ton of ignitions, ton of scorching, and easy cooldowns. So those artifact mods are flare up, so your firebolt grenades apply more scorch, and damaging a combatant with the firebolt grenade will spawn a fire sprite. That fire sprite is also helpful for getting more firebolts, and along with our survivability. A little pro tip with this: if you hit the enemy directly with the firebolt, like, don't let the actual seeker just be the only thing that hits. Actually hit them with the grenade. It will cause a guaranteed ignition, which is pretty cool. And then also rain of firebolts, so you're going to have that second firebolt charge. And really the only other important mod here in the artifact will be Solar Surge. So when you pick up that fire sprite, you're going to gain some armor charge, which is going to increase our survivability once we get to those mods. So that main mod that has to do with the armor charge will be Emergency Reinforcement. So when we break our shields, we're going to get significant damage reduction. It's going to consume all of your armor charge. We're not using any surges, so this is really just there for protection. You're always going to have it active because you just need that 1 orb and 1 fire sprite and you'll be good to go. But you're also going to be making an orb on every single knife kill you get, and you're going to be getting a ton of knife kills. So this will basically always be active for you. And also while it's active, you can actually start stacking up your armor charge for the next one. But otherwise, I just run more resistance mods. You can do whatever combo. It's going to basically depend on what activity you are running. So the other crazy thing about this build is how fast you're going to be getting your blade barrage. So you can just spam your blade barrage non-stop, and you'll almost always have it for the next opportunity you need it, because we're going to be running hands-on. So we're going to get bonus super energy on melee kills. We're getting a ton of melee kills. And then Ashes to Assets, so you guys are going to be throwing a lot of firebolts, so you can get a lot of super from there. And also we can throw Dynamo in there. We're going to be getting our class ability all the time to recharge our knives, so that's going to give us more super as well. Not to mention, we're going to be creating a ton of orbs from our melee, so we're going to be using heavy-handed here on our gloves. And then just to make our cooldowns a little bit easier, we're going to be using Focusing Strike, so we get class ability energy when we damage enemies with a melee attack. So after you do that dodge and you're throwing your melees, you're going to be scorching targets and proccing this mod as well. And then finally, we're going to be running Impact Induction, so this way we can throw more firebolt grenades. And then since we don't need any weapon surges really, we're just going to be increasing our survivability and decreasing our cooldowns with our leg mods. So recuperation, like I said, you're going to be making a ton of orbs, and the orbs actually pop up. So a little pro tip: as you're getting the melee kills, kind of jump at the enemy's head and you can basically grab that orb of power on demand, which is very nice, and just keep playing aggressive. That's also going to trigger our health regen, so that's also going to increase our survivability. And then we're going to run Absolution just so we can get all of our abilities on better cooldowns. Then we're going to be running Reaper. Like I said, picking up those orbs can increase our survivability, so we want to make more of those, and we're going to be dodging pretty often with this build. Also Bombers, so we can throw more firebolts, and then Distribution for more ability cooldown when we're using that class ability. Now, how we're going to be using that class ability all the time is the Ember of Singeing here. So our class ability will recharge faster when we scorch targets. Our knives will do that. Our firebolts will do that. So this is very nice for getting that dodge back on demand. And also when we're throwing those firebolt grenades and we're getting those fire sprites, it's going to give us more grenade energy back. And also it's going to proc our restoration here, which is also really nice for survivability. It's going to help you out a ton. Make sure you guys play around those fire sprites. And then we're going to be causing a ton of ignitions. So having that increased area of effect is going to help out our ad clear. And then Ember of Ashes is going to allow us to apply more Scorch so we can get more of those ignitions. And then finally, we're going to be making ourselves Radiant with all those melee attacks. So one, our weapons do more damage, and also with Knock 'em Down up here, our final blows with our throwing knife will refund that melee energy while we're Radiant. And like I said, we're going to be running the Firebolt Grenade because of the artifact mod, and then Knife Trick because that's going to give us a ton of ignitions, and it'll also really good damage as well. Now the weapons I run with this are going to be for a combo. So the Tractor Cannon is going to allow us to stun Overload champions, which is nice, and also the main thing is debuff the target by 30%. And then after you debuff them, you're going to swap to your 1-2 punch shotgun. And then you can actually throw both your charges of the knife trick before 1-2 punch goes away. So you only have to shoot that one time as long as you do it as fast as you can. And then the final weapon I run is usually a trace rifle. You can run one with like incandescent or target lock depending on what level activity you're doing. Incandescent's a little bit better for the lower tier stuff. It's going to be more ignitions, as that's what our subclass is built into. And then having that double special, we're going to be getting a lot of tractor cannons, so you can basically always be debuffing all of your big targets that you're coming across. Like always, here's the overview of our armor mods if you guys want to go ahead and copy this into your own game. The main combo I end up doing with this build will end up being the tractor cannon, swap to 1-2 punch, throw my 2 knives, and then I dodge, and then I can reapply tractor, 1-2 punch, and throw my 2 knives again. And then at that point, I can throw my firebolt grenades, and that way they will get the scorch and get my class ability recharging quicker. So I can keep doing this same rotation over and over. So if there's like a boss that you've come across, you can keep doing this against them. Also, another really cool thing about this build is you're going to want to be focusing on the bigger targets first, especially if there's a lot of little enemies around them, because a cool thing is if your ignition comes from throwing your 2 sets of knife tricks at the enemy, the ignition that explodes on that big enemy and it kills the little enemies around them will actually recharge your melee charges, because it will be counting as your melee killed them, because those melees are what caused the ignition. But overall, I absolutely love this build. I like that I can use it in low tier stuff and just fly through with all of our ad clear on the ignitions and just always having knife charges. And then also, as you guys move up in difficulty and you start running into more champions, you can stun all of your champions. The tractor cannon, like I said, will be overload, your ignitions will be unstop, and then you're going to be radiant all the time, so you can do your barriers. Once you guys get the hang of how to actually play this build and like leave orbs on the ground and grab them when you need, you guys will have crazy survivability as well. You can sit in like negative light activities and be perfectly fine in huge groups of enemies, as long as you guys are getting those kills with the knife and managing your orbs that are on the ground. So with this build, you guys are going to need to still play aggressive while also picking your battles carefully. Make sure you're managing your orbs, also causing ignitions on the right enemies with combinations of your firebolts and your knife tricks. So there is a lot to keep in mind with this build, but it is something that is, like I said, a skill gap and something you will learn and get better at as you play this build more and more. But hopefully you love this build as much as I do. It's a lot of fun, and I don't see a ton of people using the Ophidia Spathe, so it's fun to use something a little bit different here on the Hunter. If you have any questions about the build, make sure you guys let me know down in the comments down below. Also, if you enjoyed the build, make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more builds here on the channel. But anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next video. See ya.